In today's economy, more people than ever are looking to buy and sell businesses. But how do you do it? Welcome to the Deal Board, presented by Transworld Business Advisors. Straight talk about real deals and real people. Listen to stories, interviews, and expert advice to help your business sale, merger, or acquisition process. Now, here are your business exit experts, Andy and Jessica.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. And we have a great episode of the Deal Board, and we have some amazing guests today. And it's talking about our most popular subject here on the Deal Board, which is valuation. We could talk about it forever, and there's all kinds of different approaches. But I brought on these three guests today to talk a little bit more specifically and get a little bit more granular about the process, because in the past, we've always kidded that a business is worth 2 times or a business is worth these simplistic multiples. And really what goes into it is a lot more than that. And we have a comprehensive approach here. And we have an expert here with Ray Skaug from BizProValue. Also joining us are our fantastic partners, Ryan Armstrong and Transworld Business Advisors of Phoenix. And he does a great job out there with his wife, Jen. And we also have another Jenn Taylor from West Central Ohio, Transworld Business Advisors out there. And they both use Ray very successfully in their transactions. So we thought we'd bring them on to talk about that. But Ray, let's go to you first. Let's talk about BizProValue and, what your approach is, perhaps different than multiplying the seller's discretionary earnings by 2 or 3.
Yeah, thanks, Andy. Always good to see you, and great to have Ryan and Jenn Taylor aboard here. So our approach is really to empower the business broker to be confident and have insight. We have a great platform where brokers can immediately upload up to 5 years of tax returns. And so it really takes away the challenge of reading a tax return, which is a little bit overwhelming. You get a 70-page document, and what pages do I need? And with BizProValue, you can upload 5 years of tax returns in 40 seconds, and you immediately have all of your calculations ready to go. EBITDA, seller discretionary earnings, all of your, and because we have the integrations with the leading direct market data market multiples and the industry leading performance comparison information, you immediately can see how is this company performing compared to itself over time? How is it performing compared to the industry? And you immediately have your multiples. You can do your normalizations and your interview with the seller. But the ability to do that promptly and quickly within a matter of minutes, where everything is then teed up for the broker to apply judgment. And that judgment can be developed because you're actually looking at 3 to 5 years of trends. You see all the numbers, and it's not overwhelming. It's not a 200 column and 300 rows of Excel workbooks that are, spread out over, in a complicated manner. The user interface is very simple and clear, so you can immediately start forming judgment about and understanding about the deal. So I think our clients find they get stronger deals with quicker results, quicker analysis.
All right. Hey, Ryan, I know you've used Ray on a couple transactions. Why don't you talk about a little bit about, taking a more comprehensive approach to valuation?
One of the reasons we love the BizProValue software is it's uniform, right? So we can look at those 5 years of tax returns pretty quickly, and we're able to get better at what we do. Like that's, I think, our goal in evaluating businesses is learn and be more efficient. And so the software makes it so that when we look at every business we look at, it's in the same structure, so that we can get those accurate evaluations. We're not spending a ton of time trying to figure out what we're looking at. We know what we're looking at because it's the same model for every business that we look at.
That's great. And Jenn, you've also decided to use Ray on some of the transactions. Tell us about it, your experience.
Yeah, no, it's been amazing with the ability to upload all the documents directly into the program, where some of our agents were not as comfortable reading through the tax returns. The program goes in and puts it in the right spot. We then go in with our discretion and our knowledge on how to move some of those things for recasting value. But you're not spending so much time, am I in the right bucket? Am I in the right category over here? And it really just takes the guesswork out of some of those steps that trip up so many people.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's what, Ray, we really like as business brokers is the ability to have access to all that data that you've been able to bring together. And then, of course, have the ability to kind of streamline the process. But, listen, this is not your first iteration of BizProValue. You've been doing this for a long time. What are you seeing out there in the trends of valuation itself? Why do you think this BizProValue software could be as responsive as it needs to be for the, things that are happening out there in the economy?
That's a great question. And it speaks to the timeliness of information. So when an analysis, and remember that this is a portal that the brokers can do themselves, right? And so we've taken all of the valuation since 2007, since I started with the bank. We had to know the numbers from an underwriting standpoint. So we've taken all of that information and that structure and made it possible for the broker to have that same level of insight. And so one of the challenges is volatile times. How do things change? What happened last year? What happened to COVID? Potentially what's happening now? And the ability to run multiple reports at different periods of time to add data to immediately see the insight is very powerful. Now we're at a period we're in April, and we'll start to get tax returns in. But now you can move from 2023 tax returns and immediately have 2024. So the ability to add information throughout the selling cycle, and let's call it a 12-month period or an 18-month period where a broker is initiating a call on a seller and building that relationship and gathering that information. Well, you can have a most probable selling price in minutes, not days or weeks. So now you can engage a prospective seller. Now that seller provides some additional information. You can make more informed normalizations, and then you can swap out, or you could use, we'll say, 3 years of tax returns and a 24 financial statement. And then when the 24 tax return comes in, you immediately have that information available to upload. So the reporting and the analysis is not static. Rather, it's very dynamic and can be done so immediately. I think as times change, your information and analysis needs to change also. And so to be able to do that very quickly gives power to a broker, and the broker who has that power and that responsiveness is head and shoulders above somebody who's trying to crank out something by hand in an Excel workbook.
I agree. And Ryan, I think we've done some statistics that I think were really surprising to us even over the last 5 years, that businesses that sell within 15% of their true valuation, with 15% of their current listed value, which means that the businesses that don't sell are just about 15% overpriced. And I think, and you could tell me what your buyers are doing out there, I think buyers are smarter these days, and they're looking for that more information, and they're getting, and the world is getting very smart about how much a business should sell for. Is that what you're seeing, Ryan?
Absolutely. We see more buyers come to us and go like, so how did you get to this number, right? So they want to understand how we valued the business, because there's so much information out there with the internet, and that they're actually seeing like they're knowledgeable. They come to us and they go, this is how I value the business. And so when we can provide them backup to, hey, this is how we got to that information, they don't ask questions, right? They ask a lot less questions when we provide them, hey, this is the 25 pages of documents that validate our sales price. And it goes the same way with the sellers, right? We go to the sellers and we go, hey, here's all our data that validates the selling price so that we're not that 15% overpriced. And so it goes both ways with buyers and sellers. And the more you can give them and to validate what you're presenting, it just carries a lot of weight in what we do on a daily basis.
Yeah, I could imagine. And not only does it, carry weight with the buyers and sellers out there, but Jen, the buyers and sellers are important too. But what about the bankers? Are you seeing the bankers loving this process as well?
That's a great question, Andy. It's interesting. As a member of, I'm a CVA, right, and part of any CVA. So one of the classes that they're offering.
No. You go right.
One of the classes that they're offering is Excel validation workshops. And so there are workshops on how to validate an Excel workbook and the calculations that it makes. The beauty of Excel is that it's very robust. And the downfall of Excel is that it's very robust. And so you have all of these formulas, and man, if anything changes, oh my goodness, where did that number come from? And so by having a cloud-based system, as Ryan spoke to, with great stability and uniformity, and I think even Ryan, you talked about being able to come in with a report that you can communicate that it's published on third-party software. I think you said that it speaks to the validity of that, as opposed to this is my workbook that I made myself.
Yeah, we get a lot less questions when it's a presentation than we do if it's an Excel workbook. Like if we present an Excel worksheet, they're like, well, I know what I can do with an Excel worksheet. Like I can manipulate the data. And whereas when we present this is the software, this is a presentation that we're presenting to buyers and sellers, it carries a lot more weight in what we do. And it just shows like a different level of professionalism that we can provide to our buyers and sellers.
Yeah, and talk about that a little bit, Ray. I know we're dancing around it a little bit, but talk about the ability for the tax returns to be automatically uploaded and takes out the guesswork of trying to figure out where the numbers are coming from.
Yeah, that's a great question. So we use a proprietary application of AI. And so that content says, I'll look at a tax return, whether it's the 1120S or the C corporation or the partnership or the 1040 sole proprietor. And you can immediately upload that information, and everything conforms to a common chart of accounts, including the other deductions. In my banking days, we were still using Excel, right? And Andy, the amount of time trying to find $211.53 is inordinate. It's like, where did it go? It's not in this year. It wasn't in last year. Where did I miss that number? And you think about the dollar cost of trying to find $200 for 2 hours of labor time or confusion. So the ability to import those numbers with high degree of accuracy in a useful form that's how you get to $1 million in revenue with less stress and more success, is by automating the data collection. Because as Ryan said, information is somewhat of a commodity today. Judgment is a whole nother world. And judgment means I know the numbers and I know what they mean. So rather than selling a jar of Prego spaghetti sauce, trust me, it's in there. Now I can take this pile of tax returns and say, let me show you a trend analysis. Let me show you a column chart and show you what's happening to EBITDA over time. Don't you agree that this company is performing at a high level? That's priceless.
Yeah, it is. It is priceless. And And Jen, you talk about, the confidence that not only the brokers have, but, the clients have as well.
Absolutely, especially when what we present to them in the sim is so easily supported when they're getting into due diligence. They're transferring so smoothly that our due diligence is going faster, and they're building that confidence. So we have repeat buyers that maybe didn't win out on the first deal, but they're coming back for the next one. They know what to expect. They know it's consistent. They know the material, that we're doing our best presentation on the numbers and providing a great product.
And Ray, you were speaking to me because I can't tell you how many times I'm sitting there between the front page of the tax return, the other deductions, trying to find out why I'm off by $200.
Yes.
It can drive you nuts.
Oh, exactly. And Jen just spoke to that too. To be able to go from presentation to sale through underwriting, because deals fail because the opportunity is not described or the opportunity is not confirmed. And when the sim is not integrated with the numbers, readers read that and go, something doesn't make sense. It sounds like a wonderful business, but the financial statements don't quite look the same way, or there's a hiccup, and I don't understand why. And then when it gets to the underwriting, all of that, comes out in the wash. And as we always say, due diligence and underwriting is a horrible time for discovery. That's the fast way to get a decline from an underwriter. So speak to the numbers, know the numbers, and speak to the numbers. The subject company questionnaire should give insight to the underwriter. What happened to revenue? What happened to cost of goods sold? What happened to personnel? Why are these numbers in this manner? The sim that is artistic has a wonderful impact on attracting and appealing to somebody. But the second stage of that buyer experience is validating the numbers, because I am buying an existing business with an existing set of practices rather than going and starting my own. And so I want to know what moves the needle. What are those activities? And when that sim speaks to the BOV, bang, magic happens.
Yeah. I can imagine. And Ryan, you've done a few deals. You want to talk about any of the deals that you've done recently that speaks to this process?
Yes. So when we, the best part about when we're putting together a deal and we build our sim and we use BizProValue to do our numbers. We do all our evaluations, and then we get to the point where we're going through due diligence, and they're like, "Okay, we want to see all the numbers," and we provide them, maybe actual tax returns, and they're identical to what we're working on, and the add backs are where they're supposed to be. It makes due diligence go a lot faster, right? There's no more questions. Like, due diligence isn't a hunt and peck where they're trying to find like the holes in the system when everything's accurate on the front side, and then we mirror it with accurate information on the back side. Then the bank sees the same thing, right? That our banks will look at it and go like, what you provided us at the beginning is the same as what you're providing us at the end. And they're a lot more inclined, especially in today's SBA market, they're a lot more inclined to help you through the process, where they're not like going through discovery in due diligence like that. That's when we've had some issues where they look at it and go like, things aren't matching. And we had a huge cleaning business that, as we got into due diligence, it peeled back more onions than anybody knew about, right? Sellers don't always didn't understand where they were at either. And it just got to the point where everyone was like, I think there's no onion left. So we're gonna all go our separate ways, and that's not a fun place to be, and that's why we work really hard with Ray and that to get the numbers right on the front side, so that we don't end up with no onion on the back side.
Yes, it is. It's funny you brought up a plant. We always say the seeds of inconsistency grow very quickly. So once somebody finds one thing, it just mushrooms into something more. And yes, one thing can kill a deal. So we're trying to, get beyond that. Jen, how have you used it in your practice to get some deals done?
So we've used it in every practice, from just doing a simple recast to selling a BOV, to, hiring Ray to do the certified evaluation of a business. But anytime anybody brings in their listing, as a lead, we immediately put everything in there. When we're sitting down with a potential listing seller, it helps us set the price too. When we have something tangible in front of them, that it's not just us on a paper napkin saying, we think you're worth this, but we're really bringing hard evidence in a great platform. The sellers are more likely to be in a healthier range to actually sell than believing they're worth a lot more, than the market's willing to bear. So for us, it's been just a really good cycle of using, and how much time savings we have. What used to take us, a couple days to do a sim is now a couple hours, and it's been amazing.
So Ray, have you seen things getting busier?
Oh, let's see. I think that the answer is, are more brokers using our platform? And the answer is yes. And I think the reason why is because with uncertainty, there's a premium on knowing the numbers. And so the faster you can know the numbers, regardless of the next step is, what do they mean? And that area of risk that says, do I sell it for 3 times or 3.5 times? That's another area. But Andy, you said that the underwriters go through a process. I think they go through about 42 minutes. And in 42 minutes, they're going to decide if this is a deal or not. Now, and that may not be exact, all right? But the point is that they will form an opinion very quickly. And if the first hurdle says, I can't trust the numbers because I don't know where they came from, that's a huge hurdle and a huge red flag. And back in the underwriting days, they used to talk about it's the same deal with a few more bows and ribbons or different paint and regalia on it, but it's the same deal that doesn't work. And so once they get that once an underwriter gets a jaundiced view of a deal, it's real hard to resurrect it. And let alone the time that it says the deal gets declined or it gets incomplete. And now you're back at the end of the underwriting queue, and it'll be 27 days before they take it back up, or some period of time. But as Ryan said, having those numbers on the front end builds validity, and the validity is the first element of trust. Can we trust the numbers? Then I'll decide whether I can trust your judgment about those numbers. But there should be 100% agreement on what do the numbers say and how did you get to those numbers?
So I think at the end of the day, this just brings more transparency to the process and more certainty. And in a world that might be uncertain, and certainly buying businesses over the years is sort of a mystery to a lot of people, and valuation is an art, as they always say, not a science. But I think it's becoming more scientific because of guys like Ray and the practices that Jen and Ryan are bringing to the table and making sure their clients, know their numbers. Because it's eye-opening for the sellers too sometimes that, I just sat down with a client, yesterday that thinks his business is worth $5 million and it's probably worth about $800,000. So going through this process is very helpful sometimes. So, Ryan, what's your message out there to the baby boomers who are thinking about selling?
I think the baby boomers that are thinking about selling, you have to understand what you have. You've ran a great business for a long time, but ultimately, just like the product or service that you provided in what you do, there's a value that goes along with that. If you're a tire shop, your tires are only worth so much, right? If you're a plumbing company, it only costs so much to fix a leaky faucet, right? Just like in selling your business, there's only so much value in it, and there's a way to evaluate, and there's numbers, and a lot of that goes into how you've ran your business and how you've ran it towards the end than necessarily at the beginning. And I think that you have to sometimes look at what's next and prepare yourself mentally for the next, because that's probably the biggest hurdle that people run into, boomers that go like, hey, my business is worth this. Well, they're not really worried about the money. They're worried about their legacy, right? It's finding the right buyer. They're worried about, what am I going to do next? Like, after I don't have this business anymore? Well, maybe structure it so you stay on part-time, or you figure out what's next with your hobby or your next adventure in life. So those are the things, like, and then have some understanding that somebody else, like, you can be part of what's next for somebody else. Like, if you find the right buyer, it could be a great opportunity to hand off your legacy to somebody else that's going to build their legacy on top of yours, which is a great opportunity that is something that you can be proud of.
Yeah, I agree. This is an education process. There's lots of boomers out there that need to sell their business. And, the best way to, first thing, got to understand what you have. And I think, calling somebody like Ryan or Jenn is critical. And Jenn, I think that big opportunity out there that a lot of young people are missing. And I think you're the youngest person on this call. Maybe Ryan, but, but I think Jenn might be. So I'm going to come to you as the advocate, the voice for the next generations of people who could own all these businesses that are held by, baby boomers. How can this help them? How can this help the buyers out there?
So I've actually used the program possibly uniquely in this manner with the buyers. There's several different options that Ray has built into his program for, forecasting, and so I have a buyer right now buying a 110-year-old business that is antiquated. It's been running its way, forever. And I was able to take the numbers, put it into the forecast appropriately for where we think it'll grow, and help him really build a budget to see what his potential is. And, and then with his program, you can move things a little here, tweak things a little here, and really set down boundaries for this buyer to go, okay, here's what I really need to focus on, in this respect or that, or determine which product is giving the best profit margin in that company. So if you're doing the recasting appropriately, and if you're using his program to its fullest, you're able to tackle, not only lenders, but buyers, but set them up for, great success.
That's great. That's great. Ray, why don't you wrap this up? We'll go around the room and get everybody's contact information. But Ray, what's some parting words of wisdom for everybody in this marketplace? And why don't you give us your contact info?
Sure. I am Ray at BizProValue.com and the website BizProValue.com. Love to talk with you. I think that it is about differentiating yourself as a business broker, and the tools that we give you will hopefully do that, where our clients are saying the level of confidence that I have, even as a new broker, happens faster over a shorter period of time. we're super excited about that. So Andy, one of the big pitches is that we have a free 21-day trial subscription to our platform. Every Transworld broker could subscribe at no cost for 21 days and attend the Thursday webinars and include the Fast Start Boot Camp at an appropriate time and learn how to use the system. If there was one investment, and it is an investment in time because it's not an investment in cost, right? The investment in time to learn how, as Ryan and Jennifer have done, is a huge opportunity for every Transworld business advisor.
Excellent. Thank you. And Ryan, why don't you shout out to everybody out there how best to get in contact with?
Yeah, Ryan with Transworld Phoenix. My cell's 480-447-3504. You can email me at Armstrong@tworld.com. If you're in the Arizona market, we'd be happy to help.
Absolutely. And Jen?
It's absolutely. You can reach me at 614-265-3933 or Jenn, Jenn, .taylor@tworld.com. And we're Columbus to Dayton.
Excellent. Well, thank you everybody for joining us. Thank you for that conversation about valuation. So important these days. And good news for everybody, sellers, buyers, it's getting easier, more transparent, and we have some great tools here at Transworld. Give us a call. Happy to help everybody. Thanks everybody for joining us today.
Hey, Jessica, you know what time it is?
Money time?
Almost. It's time for listing of the week.
Hi, my name is Taylor Bombardiere. I'm a business broker here in the Transworld Colorado office. I wanted to hop on here real quick and highlight one of the businesses that we have for sale. This business is a well-known cafe and bakery located in the Denver metro area in one of the most desirable neighborhoods that you can be in. They serve up fresh pastries, coffee, deli items, breakfast sandwiches, really anything that you can imagine a cafe and bakery might have. They're serving up. Their growth has been extremely steady over the last 10 plus years that they've been in business. And it's a really perfect opportunity for someone that's looking to take their passion for baking or just looking to own a cafe and bakery and roll it up into something that makes a good amount of money. So we're listing this business for $375,000. The business makes $165,000 of SDE or cash flow. So with a really, really attractive multiple, this is a great opportunity for people that might be interested in breaking into the cafe and bakery industry or add it on and roll it into an existing business and portfolio that they have. So once again, my name is Taylor Bombardiere. Feel free to reach out or inquire for more information through me if this is something that you might be interested in. My cell phone number is 303-519-7578. My email address is taylorb@tworld.com. Thanks.
Hey, Andy, do you know what time it is? It's time for our deal of the week.
Deal of the week.
Sold.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Deal of the Week. I am here with Jeff and Jenna, and they are out of Ontario, California. I myself is Jen Armstrong out of Transworld Phoenix, and we're here to celebrate the recent closing of a plastics manufacturing business. Can you guys give me a little insight on what this business was all about?
Awesome. Well, thanks again for having us, Jen. Jeff and Jenna, again, out of Transworld Business Advisors, Ontario, California, the Inland Empire. This was a complex deal, but very rewarding, a family-owned plastics manufacturing business. Do you want to tell them a little bit more about how it came together?
Absolutely. So this business is a well-established customs plastics manufacturing and distribution company that have been family-owned and operated for 12 years. They specialize in creating private molds using materials like PET and PC, and served a wide range of industries from pharmaceuticals to food and liquor and personal care.
Wow, it sounds like a great business. Why is the seller looking to sell?
So this was a family-owned business that was originally started by the father and son over 12 years ago. They built the company together, but now the father was getting ready to retire, and the son still was involved in the day-to-day operations and actually wanted to stay on working with the business, but he wasn't in a position to buy it. And there was also other family members that were working there that wanted to exit. So selling allowed them to cash out and bring in a new visionary to really lead the team. So it was really a great solution for everyone because the son got to stay on full time, gave the seller a lot of confidence knowing that he was going to stay, but bring in that new visionary and cash the father out so he could retire.
Okay. So we've got plans for the seller and the seller's family. Then how did you find the right buyer for this business?
Great question, Jen. So this was really a high traffic listing on BizBuySell, and we got tons of interest on it, but we needed to find someone who had the experience in the field. So we had about 10 buyers and seller walkthroughs before we really found the right fit. Initially, the seller had priced the business too high than our broker's opinion value, which tends to happen. So we had to work through some market feedback before we got some really serious interest. But the buyer we ultimately found had already been in the plastic industry, mainly focused on distribution, and they were really looking to actively expand into manufacturing. So once we connected, it became clear that this was a strategic acquisition. The buyer's operations aligned perfectly with the supply chain, manufacturing, and distribution side of this business, and they saw the potential and were able to really come to terms with the seller on price and structure.
Yeah.
Okay. So it sounds like they're a little bit of a managing this process. How did you guys go about doing that with the buyer and seller and all the intricacies of this process?
Yeah, this was definitely a labor-intensive transaction in terms of the communication for a couple different reasons. We had the father exiting, so he was spending less and less time on email and in the office. The son wanting to stay involved, but also taking on a lot more responsibility. We had a buyer that was in another state. They were in Washington State, where they owned multiple other companies, purchasing a company in California. So that made a lot of, communication to manage. But in addition to that, because we were in manufacturing, there were some large pieces of equipment involved that had leases on them that are also liens. And so we had to go through 2 different lenders as far as the leases were concerned to have the buyer actually assume those. So imagine like multiple lender transactions involved in this one closing. But Jeff and I are really, we really focus on clear communication, whether it's over the phone, over email, text message, creating spreadsheets and documents and checklists so everybody can just really stay on track.
That's great. So if we have some other business owners out there that are looking to sell their business in the Ontario, California area, how do they get in touch with you?
Well, yeah, if they're thinking about selling their business, wondering about the process, or even just want to understand what their business might be worth, we'd love to help them. They can reach us at our office at 909-552-7003. They can email me directly at jeffk@tworld.com, and we'll help guide you through the process and make sure that there's the best possible outcome.
Every business has a story, and really what we love the most is helping people. Jeff's great at business evaluations. And so for anybody who's just curious and wants to hop on the phone and just start talking numbers about what their business might be worth, he's really here to help you. And I'm also a business coach. So if you're thinking more like strategy, processes, how long is this going to take? What should I do for exit planning? I can help you with that. But most of all, we'd just love to have a conversation.
Yep.
That's great. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. Congratulations so much on this closing. And we hope to talk to you again soon.
Excellent. Thanks, Jen. See you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning into the show today. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends on social media. And don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review on your favorite podcasting app. If you have questions, would like to appear, or have suggestions for topics for the show, get in contact with us through our website, thedealboardpodcast.com.